Hi, welcome again. Okay, so we're back to food preparation part 2. I'm sure you learned a whole lot from what we discussed in our first lesson. If you've not watched that video, you have to go back to watching the video. Now, food preparation part 2 is what we're going to be looking at today, to continue from where we stopped in our first video. Now, there's some things you're going to get acquainted with in the course of this class. Now, you're going to be able to explain the different types of cooking method. You're going to be explaining, we started explaining some of them, but we're going to look at the other types of cooking methods, so you're going to get to know them. Then another thing that you're going to be getting familiarized with is that you're going to be able to state the advantages and disadvantages of some of these methods of cooking. So let's get started. Now, cooking should not be monotonous. Okay, it's not expected to be monotonous. You don't have to just say, oh, it's boiling, frying, and then you're always frying. There are other methods of cooking. You can cook using the different types of methods, okay? Adding variety to what you're cooking, and then making the cooking process enjoyable. Now, if you make your cooking monotonous, you're going to get bored, and then you're going to get tired, cooking the same way and the same pattern. So if you're, exploring using the different methods of cooking, why not? You're going to enjoy cooking, and you're going to be adding variety to your food. Now, pressure cooking is another method of cooking. Now, pressure cooking is a quick method of cooking food by superheated steam in a closed vessel with a strong and firmly secured lid and safety valve. Okay, now a lot of us have seen a pressure pot cooker. So now this is what used to cook food. Now, it is believed that the pressure cooker makes food to get cooked fast, and then especially for hard cuts of meat, and maybe for your beans that takes a longer time to cook. Now, because of that enclosure, and then it makes food to cook faster. So the pressure cooking is when using the pressure pot, it helps to make food cook faster, and it gets ready on time. So pressure cooking is one type of cooking whereby the food is heated using steam, but in a closed vessel. Now, for steaming method, the method can be perforated. You can use a perforated colander to cook. But this pressure cooking, it is enclosed. There are no perforated vessels used at any point in time. Okay, now it's closed, and then you cook using this method. Now, there are some rules that you need to get familiarized with when using the pressure cooker. Now, to obtain maximum results, follow the pressure cooker's instruction. Now, if you have a pressure cooker, it comes with an instruction manual. So you have to follow through with what is stated there. You have to follow through with what is required and how you are to use them. Now, the first thing first is that you should know that different cooking times is required for different foods. So you don't have to be like you cook your cuts of meat the same way you're going to be cooking your beans. Now, you have to know the different cooking times for these different foods that you're preparing. Then also, you need to know how much liquid to use. You don't just pack a whole lot of water. You're pressure cooking, so you don't have to pack a whole lot of liquid into what you're preparing. So you have to know the quantity of water you're putting in, so you can get ready on time. And also, the correct pressure weight for different food is also required. Now, you have to know the correct pressure weights for your different food when you're preparing. Then how to open the pressure cooker and how to do to close it. Now, this is very, very important. If you're not careful with this, you can actually get yourself burnt. So you have to be very careful. And then the accidents we talked about that can be as a result of liquid steam, okay, you know, you could get scald as part of the accidents that can occur when you use your pressure cooker. So you have to be very careful. You have to learn how to do what? To open it and how to close it. Very, very important. These are some of the rules you need to take note if you're going to be purchasing your pressure cooker, or you're going to be using one at any point in time. So take note of these points. Now, there are advantages to what using the pressure cooker, or when you're cooking using the pressure method. Now, first one is that cooking time is reduced to at least a third of the usual time. Okay, to us it saves time. Now, when you're using the pressure cooker, it saves time. Okay, now it helps to do what? It makes your food cook faster, and then, you know, the cooking time is reduced. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, usually I don't like cooking beans, but ever since I got my pressure cooker, I love to cook my beans in less than 15 minutes, in less than 20 minutes, I'm ready, and then I'm good to go. So this is what using a pressure cooker pot can help you achieve. And also it is very economical and very, very economical. Now, if you buy tough cuts of meat, and then, you know, and then you want to cook them regularly using your fuel, you're going to burn a lot of fuel using your regular pot to cook them. But if you use your pressure pot, you're going to be achieving that in a very, very, very short time, okay, because it's going to cook faster. So let's say parts as your cow head, your cow leg, you know, the tail, and all of these parts that are very tough cuts. Yeah, they're very, very delicious parts, but they take longer time to cook. Now, if you're going to be not using your pressure pot, you know, there are other natural ways you can get your tough cuts of meat to get ready fast. I'm sure you know that. You can use your pawpaw leaves, okay? Pawpaw leaves, and then some slices of pawpaw can actually get your cuts of meat to get ready fast. Now, back to our pressure pot and pressure cooking. Now, it is very, very economical. It's very, very economical on fuel. It saves fuel a lot. You're cooking for when you use your pressure cooker. Now, there are disadvantages to what using a pressure pot and a pressure cooking as well. Now, it needs special skill when using it. Like I said, it requires what? Special skill when using it. You have to be very skilled using it. Okay, it's not for a novice. You don't have to go to it, because you can actually get burnt, and then you might not really know how to use it, and you might not achieve or get the desired result as using the pressure pot. So it requires what? Special skill when using it. Another disadvantage is that if the correct pressure weight is not used, the food may not be properly cooked. Yes, if you do not use the correct pressure weight, your food might not get properly cooked because you're not doing it the right way. So these are some of the disadvantages. So like we said earlier, some of the points that are required, you have to make sure you understand the type of pressure pot you're using, and then you follow the instructions as it stated was in the manual, so you can be able to know the pressure weight for the different types of food you're going to be preparing. Now, baking is another type method of cooking that is common. A lot of people use it, okay? Now, baking is cooking quickly in a closed preheated oven or in enclosed space by direct radiation. You know, we said baking and grilling is prepared the effects of heat on them is called radiation. Now, dry heat is applied and the food is surrounded by a current of hot air, either in an enclosed space or an oven. Now, when we say in an enclosed space, is that it's in an oven or you're using something. Maybe some persons bake using a pot, some persons bake using a pan, okay? Now, you can do that in an enclosed place, but it must be where it is enclosed. Now, for baking, you can use your oven, whereby you can use fuel such as your gas and electricity to do what? To fuel them. Then also kerosene tin, drum oven, cupboard oven, or in a heavy pot with lid. Now, all these are ways you can do what? Bake, using these materials to do what? To bake. The essence is that you're sending heat in an enclosed place for food to do what? To get cooked and ready. Now, we bake a whole lot of our pastries, our cakes, and a whole lot of these foods that is suitable for baking. Now let's just look at some of the foods that are suitable for baking. Now, products from cereal flour such as your puddings, your cakes, your pastries, and then those that has to do with your yeast mixtures, your bread, okay, your donut and all of that. You can actually do what? Bake them. You can bake them. These are very, very suitable products when you have to do what? Use the baking method. Another type that is very, very okay is your meats, the whole fish or large cutlets. You can bake them. You can put them in the oven and bake them. Your meat, your fish, and then large cutlets, you can put them in the oven or in an enclosed space and do what? Bake them to get ready. And also, you can also bake your vegetables, your potatoes, your onion. Yes, they're very, very good. They give this extra flavorings to your veggies, so you can actually bake them to use them for your food and your dishes. So baking is very, very important. Now let's look at some of the advantages of what? Baking. Now, there's no loss of soluble nutrients. When you bake, you do not lose any soluble nutrients, as against other methods of cooking, and like boiling, you lose a whole lot of nutrients such as your vitamin C, and then your B complex vitamins. Okay, now but for baking, there are no loss of soluble nutrients. Okay, now food does not break up but keeps its shape. Okay, rather it improves and it looks beautiful and then it's nice. Okay, food does not break up, but it can break up when there are no proper mixtures. It depends on whatever you're making, when it has to do with pastries and a whole lot of that. But when you're doing the right thing, food does not break up, okay, but keeps its shape. Another one is that food cooked by this method is attractive and appetizing. When you bake the food, the end product is what? Is attractive and then it's appetizing. Okay, you want to love to eat it. It's looking beautiful and then it's okay for consumption. Now, there are also disadvantages when it has to do with baking. Now, the disadvantages as associated with baking is that it requires constant attention. Otherwise, food may get burnt. Yes. Now, it requires you to be constantly available. You have to stand put. You have to stay there. Okay. Now, if you're baking some things that you already know the time frame, let's say you're baking cake and I'm saying, okay, in the next 30 minutes I should check, or in the next 15 minutes. Now, it depends on the type of cake you're preparing. Now, you soak in the next 10 minutes, in the next 30 minutes, 25 minutes, I need to check back. Then you go back to check. But it requires constant attention. Now, for some other types of food, let's say you're making cookies that requires 10 minutes or 15 minutes. After that period, and then you don't go to check, what happens? By the next time you're going to be getting a burnt offering. Okay, so you need to check constantly. It requires you to check constantly. Another disadvantage is that it's expensive to heat the oven, and therefore it wastes fuel to bake only one dish. Okay, now it is expensive to heat the oven, therefore it wastes fuel to bake only one dish. Now, you hear preheat the oven. Okay, like when you want to bake some things, they say preheat the oven. So at that point in time, you're not putting anything in the oven. So when you on the oven, you have to preheat it to get to a certain temperature before you can now put the things you want to bake and then into it. So you have to preheat the oven. So that process of preheating, you're doing what? You're wasting fuel. Okay, it's not economical at that point in time. So it's expensive to heat the oven and therefore waste fuel to bake only one dish. Now, another disadvantage is that it requires careful temperature control and skill. Yes. Now, if you see some of the products that are associated with baking, they say bake using this temperature, bake using this temperature. So you have to be very careful so as not to exceed the temperature as it is required by that type of dish of food or pastries that you are preparing. That's why we have a temperature reader whereby you can put it and to be able to know so it doesn't exceed that temperature limit that is required to what you're preparing. It requires that careful temperature control and skill for you to be able to know that. Now, we have another method of cooking which is referred to as roasting. Now, roasting is almost like the same process that is used with same as baking. Okay, it is cooked by radiated heat, okay, on a spit or an oven, or but this one has to do with what in a very using very low temperature. Now baking and roasting is similar, okay, like I said, it's similar. Dry heat is what is used to prepare it. Now food may be roasted in an oven which requires little attention, or in a heavy pot with a lid or an open fire, which is, you know, an easy and fast method. Now roasting, whereby you can use an open lid. You know, people use a stainless pan and then they put fire coals and all of that, and they're roasting their meal, or they're roasting whatever it is they are roasting. So now roasting too has to do with what? Dry heat, as it is with baking. But roasting does not entail you to be in an enclosed space. It doesn't say you have to be in an enclosed space as it is with baking. It can be done in an open fire. You can roast in an open fire, as against what? Baking, where you have to do it in an enclosed space. I'm sure you are able to differentiate. So if they say, can you differentiate between roasting and baking and grilling, you would be able to do what? Explain in like manners. Now, let's look at some of the foods that are suitable for roasting. Now, first one we have is the better cuts of meats. Now, examples as your sirloin or rib or beef can be used. The roasting method can be used to do what? To cook them. You can use the roasting method. Then poultry of all kinds, if young, you can actually roast them as well. Then vegetables such as potatoes, plantain, you can roast them also. Then your maize and yam, okay, you can roast them. So you see your roasted corn. Now, when the season of roasted maize and you see them around, they are roasted. Then the yam, as it is with our bole, is roasted, okay? So these are foods that are suitable for roasting, coming in contact with what? Direct fire and flame. Now, also we have advantages of what? Roasting. What are the advantages of roasting? Now, food is tasty. Now, roasted foods are quite tasty. I'm sure you can agree with me on that, okay, if you're a bole fan, okay? So they are tasty. They taste very, very good. Then also appearance of food is usually what? Attractive. When they are ready, you know, it looks attractive, it looks appealing. That is what it is about food. Food should be what? Attractive. It should be appealing. It should call for your attention. So foods that are done through the roasting method is what? Usually what? Attractive. Now another one is that it retains its full flavor and food value. Now when you roast food, it retains the full flavor and then the food value is not lost. You can still find them. Okay, these are some of the advantages of what? The roasting method. Now let's look at the disadvantages of roasting method. First one is that it needs constant attention. Yes, it needs constant attention. You have to pay, you know, attention to it. You have to keep turning. You have to keep turning so it doesn't get burnt. You have to be there. It's not something you have to keep on fire and then you're running away. You have to stay there and see that it is ready for you to take it out. Okay, you can't just put your fish on top of that on top of the lid and then you're going away. It's going to get burnt. It needs constant attention. Then another one is that it takes longer time at lower temperature. It takes longer time at lower what? Temperature. It takes longer time because, you know, it has to cook properly. So it takes longer time to do what? To cook. Then only the tender and expensive cuts of meat are suitable. So it's only tender cuts. You can't do a whole chunk of it to do what? Using the roasting method. So it's that tender and, you know, expensive cuts of meat that are suitable for what? You using the roasting method. Another method of cooking is frying. Not a whole lot of persons are familiar with this one. They love frying. Now, frying is a method of cooking in hot oil, okay, or fat. You know, you're immersing whatever you're cooking in oil, okay, and then you're cooking them. Now we have the various types of frying. I'm sure you know some of them, but let's look at the deep or French frying. Okay, in this method, enough oil is used. Now deep frying, enough oil is used to immerse the food completely over the oil inside. So after you do that, then some persons, okay, can coat the food and then you put them to deep fry, so it can be crispy and then appetizing after you're done frying it. Okay, you can coat with crumbs, then with your flour, then you deep fry it with enough oil in them. Okay, it is not shallow, you deep fry. It's also referred to as what? French frying. And we have the stages in heating oil for deep frying. Before we proceed, let's look at the stages in heating oil for deep frying. Now we have the first stage, which is referred to as what? The melting stage. Okay, now the fat melts from what? Solid to liquid. Now when you put them there, put your oil, it melts from what? Solid to liquid. Then we have this stage that's referred to as what? The bubbling stage. Now the water in the fat boils out, giving a bubbling sound. I'm sure you've seen that when you have your oil, it bubbles. Now that's referred to as what? The bubbling stage. Then we have the frying stage. At this point in time, whatever you have put in there into the oil, okay, now there's this bubbling sound, like it is with the bubbling stage. At the frying stage, the bubbling sound stops, okay? And then, there's a blue haze of smoke, you begin to see it at the top of what your, the oil as you're cooking, whatever it is. Then the last stage that has to do with the effect of heat and oil is the decomposition stage. The decomposition what? Stage. At this stage, when the oil gets heated beyond what? The frying temperature. Sometimes we are fried and then you see it's dark, it accrues fumes, and then it produces this irritating, feeling in our throat. Now at this point, the oil is what? This is referred as what? The decomposition what? Stage. And it is not okay. This can cause some health issues to us. So when it is at this stage, then no, you have to stop. So when the oil is it's heated beyond what? The frying temperature. Now let's look at the foods that are suitable for what? Deep frying. You have your root vegetables, then you have your bean cake, your akara, okay? Then your fried yam, plantain, donuts, coated foods, and foods in batter, okay? You can deep fry these foods. They're very suitable for what? Deep frying. Then also we have the shallow frying. A lot of us are very familiar with the shallow frying too. Okay, now this method is whereby foods are cooked in heated fat, covering just the bottom part of your pan. Okay, you can put them on top, and then it's not immersing, it's not going into, it's referred to as what? The shallow frying. Okay, we can fry a lot of things using the shallow frying, whereby you're not immersing the food in the oil. Okay, and I know fat is used to prevent the food from sticking to the frying pan. You just put enough as is required to whatever you want to prepare, not to let it what? Stick on your pan. Now a whole lot of ways today people shallow fry with just dusting or cleaning the pan with oil or fat, and then they go ahead to cook and to fry. So that is one way of frying. Now we have braising as another method of cooking. Have you ever heard of that? Now braising is another method of cooking. Now this is a brief frying of food in a shallow fat after which the food is cooked. Braised food can be greasy if excess fat is used. Now a lot of us have done this thing, but we never knew that it was referred to as braising. Okay, I remember when we were younger, if we have boiled yams that have stayed overnight, and then and you don't feel like eating it boiled again, what you can do, you can braise it. Okay, you can just add a little bit of fat to it, and then you do what? If you want to add a little bit of seasoning, then you can now do what? Braise them, fry it, okay, because it has been cooked previously. So this is one way you can actually do what? As rechaff. You can actually change a dish from what? Something else into something else to eat. So that is referred to as what? Braising. Now there's this dry frying method too, whereby is the method used for foods which already contains plenty of fat. Here you don't need to do what? Add fat to them anymore. Okay, the fat melts and runs out of the food on its own. Now some of these foods that we can do is our pork. Okay, you don't need to add fats to them. You can use the fats that are produced, your sausages, your bacon, your herrings. That this is dry frying. You just put them in the frying pan, and then the fat produced from them is what is used to fry them, rather than having to add fats to them to fry them. Okay, another method of cooking food is referred to as sauteing. Now, this is a method of frying food quickly in a shallow pan or hot fat, turning it until it is evenly brown on both sides. Okay, now it can be used for flavoring foods such as garnishing, like your tomatoes. You don't want it to get too much in contact with oil, fat. After you season it, you just do what? Put them, you saute into a frying pan, and then you just put this part, and then you turn the other part, and then you can use them to do what? As garnishing. Your onion, you can use your onion. You can do this for your leafy vegetables, your garden eggs, your green pepper. This is very good. So it doesn't come in contact with oil, it's not immense. You see that when this part is brown, then you turn the other part, and then you're okay to use them after slicing them. So this is referred to as what? Sauteing. Now let's look at the advantages of what? Sauteing. It is a fast or quick method of cooking. It is a very fast or quick method of cooking. Very fast. I love sauteing my food. It's very fast, and it makes my food very tasty as well. Okay, now fried foods are attractive and what? Tasty when you saute. So remember, all of these are referred to as what? The frying methods. Your braising, your sauteing, and then deep frying, and all of that, shallow frying, and all of these. So they are all under what? The frying method. It has to do with what? Oil, or not immersing in deep oil, shallow frying. So now we're looking at the advantages of this method. Now fried foods are attractive and what? Tasty. They are tasty. Tasty, they're good. Now, no loss of soluble nutrients if the food is coated before frying. Now, when you coat your food, you are able to retain the nutrients when you coat them. Now, coating helps to do what? To retain nutrients in the food. Here, you won't have to lose soluble nutrients when you fry them. Then let's look at the disadvantages of what? Frying. Now, it needs skill and is dangerous unless done carefully. Yes. Okay, there can be splashes, and this can cause scalds, burns, and all of that. So you have to be very skillful to do it. Now, it's very funny a way some people fry, they will put one and they will run away and all of that. So you need to be very skillful to do it. So when you're putting it, you don't have to put it with the water so it doesn't splash to get you, injured and all of that. You need to be skillful to do that, and then you have to do it carefully because you can actually get burned by splashes. Now, also another disadvantage is that fried food is unappetizing and greasy when cold. When it's very hot, as you eat it, it's crispy, it's beautiful, it's lovely, but immediately it is cold. It becomes what? Unappetizing, and it's greasy, okay? And you won't want to like it, to eat it anymore, because it won't really look appetizing at all. Yes, that is it. Disadvantages with fried food. Now, also, it requires constant attention. You can't leave it and walk away. You have to be there. You have to be there to see that it is prepared and it is okay while you are on it. So you can't leave to go back and check. You have to be there, get through with it, and then you move on to the next task as required by you. And now, finally, we're going to look at this method of cooking, which is referred to as what? Poaching. Now, this is a gentle method of cooking delicate foods like eggs, fish, to retain the maximum food value. Okay, now this is very, very okay for invalids. This method of cooking is very, very okay because it retains what? The maximum food value when you have to cook them. Now, food should be cooked in a shallow pan, half filled with water. Half filled with water, and then you're cooking it, whatever it is that you're preparing. So this is very, very okay for invalids as well and convalescents when you have to cook using this method. Now let's look at the advantages using poaching. Now it maintains maximum food value. When you use this method, it maintains what? Maximum food value. So you're not losing any form of nutrients because you're using this method, poaching method. You're not losing any form of nutrient. Now, poached foods are easy to digest and are therefore suitable for infants and people with weak digestive system. So when you use this, And this method is very suitable for infants, children, babies. It's good for them because their digestive system is not so strong as per to say. So if we use this method for them, it helps them to do what? To be able to digest the food easily and quick and fast. So these are the advantages of using what? A poaching method. Then disadvantages of what? Using the poaching method is that it needs constant attention and skill. You have to be there, you have to watch it and see that it is okay and it is suitable to use. Now, also another disadvantage is that it is suitable for few types of food. Now, you can use poaching for every other type of food. It's just specifically for some type of food, just as we have listed for your eggs, your fish, and some of these other foods, veggies. Now, it is not expected to be, you don't use it for almost every other type of food. You have to use some suitable types of food. And I'm going to leave you with an assignment. You're going to still go out and check out for some other types of methods of cooking food. Now, we've listed over 6, 7, 8 of them. So you're going to check out for some of these other methods of cooking food that we have not listed, and then you're going to get familiarized with them as well. Thank you for being part of our class today. See you in our next class. Bye.